Hi, I'm Scott, and in this video, I'm going to give you 8 tips to giving better 1AR speeches in your debates. In this video, I wanted to give some tips for giving the 1AR speech in a debate because we have been using the 1AR setup debate video that I posted on this channel in my classes this week, and a lot of the debaters have been making some sort of general common mistakes, and I wanted to put together a list of 8 sort of general common tips for a 1AR that I thought that a lot of my students and other debaters might benefit from. So the first tip is the order. The order is not AF and then neg. The order is not my case and then their case. Those things are fine if you have like a parent judging the debate or somebody who's not super familiar with debate. But generally, these positions in the debate have a very specific name. So from the setup debate, the 2 affirmative flows are called the debris contention and the asteroids contention. A lot of judges are going to put those on 2 different sheets of paper and will have the ability to dynamically move them if they don't. So you want to be very specific about the order. And you also don't want to add extra things to it. So you'll notice in the order that I gave in the speech from yesterday, I said debris contention, asteroids contention, democracy DA, broadband DA, farming DA, etc. Very specific names in the order so that the judges know exactly which sheet of paper that I'm going to go to. The second tip is kind of related to this, and that is that when giving an order, when giving a 1AR, when giving a speech, your side of the debate should almost always be first. So if I'm AF giving the 1AR in this debate, the case flows are always going to be before the disad flows. And the reason for this is that in order to win the debate, you are almost certainly going to have to win your side of the debate, and generally for debate, your side of the debate is more important for you than beating the other team's side is important for you. Generally, as a sort of moniker that we use in my classes, especially for the affirmative, your case is your baby. And the last thing that you want to do to your baby is drop your baby. You don't want to put your case last in the order with the potential that you could drop your case or not get to your case, because if you don't answer the things that they've made against your case, you're going to auto lose the debate on presumption because you have just presented no offensive reason for your side to win the debate. So you almost always want to have your offense, your contentions first in the order. Your side of the debate should almost always be first. The third tip that I have is that when you are going to your own case pages, generally before you answer the first argument that the other team made, you want to give a brief overview about what the affirmative is, maybe the impacts. You need to pick a portion of the debate potentially, explain that to the judge, and have that before you jump into the line by line, because you're not going to be able to extend everything within the line by line, even if you're doing embedded clash, in order to actually get everything on the case page that you want on the case page in the debate. So you should always have some sort of overview on that case flow. Now, when in the 1AR, when answering the negative, you're going to not want to do that. But on the AF side, you generally want some type of overview. The fourth tip that I have is that you should create a time allocation map for yourself. So how much time do you want to spend on each flow? So in my 1AR setup debate that I did, I knew I wanted to spend about 2 minutes on the AF and about 2 minutes on the 3 DAs. And then I said, all right, now that I have 2 minutes to spend on the DAs, how much am I going to allocate to each one of those things? And I'll even write that on the sheet of paper. I want to spend 45 seconds on this DA, or I want to spend 45 seconds answering this contention or on this specific argument on the flow. And one of the best skills that you can have and develop and generate is to have your physical timer there with you during the speech. Put it in your peripheral vision and be able to say, all right, I've spent a minute on this debris contention, Scott. I need to stop what I'm saying and go to the asteroid contention no matter what, because my time allocation map says that if I don't do this, I'm going to drop some other component of the debate. So I really think that it's important to have a map where you allocate your time. Now, this doesn't mean like create a flow that is a map where you divide it out. Just kind of just think in your head, all right, 4 minutes, I want to spend 2 minutes here, 1 minute here, 1 minute here. If you want to write that down, that's fine, but that's what I mean by a time allocation map. The fifth tip that I have is that you should make strategic choices. If you think something is true, if you think you only need to make 2 analytical arguments because, Biden is super appeasing towards Russia right now and there's no reason why you need to make any other argument, or they read a piece of evidence that takes out their own argument, make those strategic choices. You should think, hey, if I can get sort of a truthy analytical in that takes out this whole thing, maybe I can reallocate my time towards other places in the debate that are more useful to me. So I think making those type of strategic choices, especially when it comes to just like truthy style analytical arguments, is a really strategic skill to have in the 1AR. The sixth tip that I have for you is that the 1AR on off-case positions, answering contentions or off-case positions that the negative has presented that are new in the NC, you need to develop sort of a no-nonsense fashion of answering those things. So you need to be super concise. There's no sort of like pontification or anything like that. It's kind of like they said this, first answer, 1, 2, 3, second answer, third answer, and move on to the next sheet of paper. There's no real sense in getting in depth on answering the DA. You just want to get your arguments out there so that if the negative would go for that disadvantage or contention, you have those arguments available to you to extrapolate on in a 3-minute speech rather than the probably 1 minute that you're going to get or less to answer it in the 1AR. So off-case positions answered by the 1AR need to be super concise. Second to last tip is that the 1AR should definitely be reading cards, but no bad cards. The 1AR is a no bad card zone. You can only read good cards. So like, for instance, I probably read a card in my speech that was like a piece of NPT impact defense that's probably just not worth it in the debate because it's not a good piece of evidence that's a round-winning piece of evidence. However, it's really hard to beat disadvantages, contentions that the AC doesn't take into account with no new pieces of evidence. So you need to strategically choose where you're reading those new pieces of evidence in the debate. Last tip, eighth tip, is that you should try to keep every argument, quote unquote, alive in the debate that you can. You shouldn't try to kick any contentions, anything like that yet in the debate in the 1AR, because you want to make the NR as hard as possible. You are trying to deal with a speech where you get an incredible disadvantageous amount of time trade-off. You need to make that NR as hard as possible. So the 1AR, even if you're just like shadow extending things and you don't really think that, your arguments are cutting it, the NR at least has to spend time answering those things. Keep them alive so that even if you're going to kick that advantage, or you're not going to go for this argument or that card, it's still something that you spend 3 words on so that the NR functionally has to answer that argument, or they lose the debate on the tech of the debate. So those were sort of 8 tips that I put together from watching a bunch of 1AR speeches in my classes this week. So hopefully y'all find this helpful. If you have any other tips, you're more than welcome to drop them down in the comment section below. And if not, hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you next time.